Hey,
Hey, Destiny.
hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. All right. So, welcome to the Insight Plug. I'm Destiny Hop, your host, and today we have independent screenwriter Joel Handler, right out of Los Angeles, California. How you doing, Joel?
Oh, awesome. Thanks for having me.
How did you start your journey with screenwriting?
It was actually a pretty circuitous route for me. I started in the IT industry, and it was very, you know, stuffy and political and, very office environment. And I hated everything about it. It was comfortable financially. A lot of people stay there their whole careers, especially since it was with the county. And that was one of the issues as well, is that I saw the same faces for years, and it just there wasn't a creative outlet built into that type of work. And I always knew from a young age that I was going to be a writer. I just was so so wayward in my 20s. I never really gave it much thought. I never put in the time to really pursue it. And then I was coming up on 30 years of age, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. Like
Right.
I'm comfortable. I'm deeply unhappy, so I need to make a change now or never. And so I saved up some money for a couple of years, just to have some kind of cushion, and in the hopes that I might be able to quit one day. And I did. I It was super scary and stressful, but I put in my notice and I just left. I left Orange County for Spokane, Washington. Having never visited, I just knew that I could potentially live there cheaply.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I did. I got a one bedroom apartment for like $600, which is, unheard of out in LA.
Yeah.
But I could afford to not work for a while and just concentrate on writing, because I didn't even know if I could. There's a big difference between wanting to write and being able to.
Right. Hobby and then talent.
Yeah, yeah, desire and ability for sure.
Right.
Um, so I didn't even know what I wanted to write at that point. I went out there thinking I was going to become a novelist, and writing a 200 to 300 page book is just so daunting. I was like, I need some kind of transition here. Like I've never even written a short story. And so I started researching the different kind of formats. And I mean, who doesn't like TV, right? Everyone's watching a show right
Right.
now. And so I started reading TV scripts, just thinking like a 30-page comedy pilot is more palatable and more realistic for a first time writer. And so I read every pilot that I could get my hands on, mostly comedy. For any aspiring writers out there, there's a great site. It's like TV writing through Google. I can tell you exactly what that is. Let's see, TV writing, Google. Yeah, it's just um, sites.google.com/site// TV writing. And they've got all kinds of great stuff. They've got Bibles, they've got treatments. I think there's even features, but um, there's produced scripts of your favorite shows, there's unproduced scripts, there's spec scripts. And that's my number one recommendation for anyone trying to be a screenwriter, is just read first. Like get a sense of the formatting, because it's like learning a different language. And not only that, but it's enjoyable. You can read scripts of your favorite shows and then rewatch them. And it's not like studying for biology or IT. It should be fun.
Fun. Yeah. It, do you are you more of a visual person when it comes to writing, or is it more of, does that makes any sense, like storytelling first, or do you imagine it in your mind? Which,
I think that a lot of people do come at it from the directorial standpoint.
right,
Like they're very much directing on the page, and that's something that really trips up a novice writer, is always using fade in and fade out, and cut to, and we pan, we see. I've even seen a lot of spec scripts with like dolly direction and like
Mm.
um, a lot of over directing on the page, but that's fine. I think that if you can see it visually and then translate it into a nice reading spec script, I think that those are some of the strongest ones that I've read.
Mhm.
um, that was how I did it to an extent, but I come from a reading novels background, so for me it's very much just words on the page. If I'm lucky enough to see it in my, in the television in my mind's eye, that it comes out great, and that's ideal, but it doesn't always happen that way. A lot of the times it's just trying to stick to my outline and hitting these major plot points, whereas, I don't actually see it. One thing that actually really helped me is meditation, as hokey as that sounds sometimes.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
It's calming. It allows you to have peace and stuff, so you can focus and have clarity with when you're writing your story. So
That too,
yes.
but when I was pre-writing, when I was thinking, or when I was stuck and I didn't have anywhere to go in a story, I would just kind of sit reclined in my bed and just not sleep, not focus on anything in particular, but the story would just be with me. And then, after 5, 10 minutes of just sitting there with my eyes closed, all of a sudden I'd start to see things.
Mhm.
And then, that meditation nap or what have you wouldn't last very long because I'd be running over to write it down.
Do you listen to music when you're writing? Some people listen to certain songs to inspire a certain mood, I guess.
I do know people that can write like that. I personally can't, and I wish that I could because it
Oh, I'm
seems
asking you this question because I guess I'm just a sensitive person because I also write, and that's how I'm very visual. So, oh wow, okay, so that's cool.
yeah. I do know like a friend of mine just finished his first feature,
Mhm.
um, and he had a theme in mind. He listened to a lot of like 80s, 90s hair metal, and that kind of put him in that space.
Mhm.
For me, I can't focus on two things at once. It has to be like dead silent. So living in a busy apartment complex isn't ideal.
Not helpful.
No, I have invested in, earplugs, headphones, just because I need absolute silence to concentrate on the page, unfortunately.
All right. Who are your top three, or who are your writers to go to, or the screen writers that you enjoy reading, or movie directors?
Well, surprisingly enough, I am a TV comedy writer,
Mhm.
but the script that really got me to fall in love with the craft was Charlie Kaufman. He did Adaptation, which was one of the first scripts that I read. He also did, I believe, um, Being John Malkovich, and I think he also did Eternal Sunshine. Um, but don't quote me on that last one. I fell in love with Adaptation because it's not like any script you'll ever read. It's almost like detrimental to read because this is like a Renaissance painter at work. He's not following every rule. He's making his own. A lot of incomplete sentences. Um, you know, it's a long script. It's a very long script for a feature. Um, but you can do that when you're at that level. He's like an Aaron Sorkin type who, I heard something like A Few Good Men was 300 pages in its first draft. So if you can do it, great. I wouldn't recommend starting like that, but yeah, I would definitely recommend everyone read Adaptation by Charlie Kaufman.
You talked about your formatting when writing a screenplay. So there are different methods that I've heard of, is the three act structure and then the hero's journey. Do you have you used any of those, and what's your thoughts on those formatting structures?
I think the hero's journey depends on the genre. Sure, you could use it in anything if you can make it work, but like a TV comedy pilot, um, like 30 Rock or Parks and Rec, more of the sitcom, or your multicam, anything like that. It's probably not the best way to go about it because hero's journey implies that, there's one hero on a mission, and by the end of your story, they've returned back with whatever they're seeking, and they're a little worse for the wear. Things like Star Wars or Back to the Future come to mind. I know that the Rick and Morty writer, or one of them, Dan Harmon, he's got his own like hero's journey-esque story circle, whereas everything, comes full circle at the end of a Rick and Morty episode. He also wrote Community, and I don't know if he employed it back then, but probably not. So yeah, I think with sci-fi, sure, hero's journey will usually work. Action, sure. But with a comedy pilot, I think that, you better at least be sticking to that 3 act structure. I've been hearing different things about actually including the act breaks in scripts now that we've got streaming. I see less of that, but you do need to know in your own mind where those act breaks are. One thing that was really valuable for me is I took a class with Brent Forrester. He did The Office, King of the Hill, Space Force. Yeah, he's done some of my favorite comedies, and he says to treat it like a sketch. And sketch comedy involves escalation, twist. And that really blew my mind because, if the act 1 is the setup, then the act out is the escalation, which brings you into act 2. Act 2 is more of the conflict. The act out is going to be another escalation, bringing you to act 3, which kind of it leads into the overall series question. Like, we need to know what we're going to watch over 3+ seasons, and then the episode out is the twist or the cliffhanger. That kind of, and if you can encompass that in your twist, the series question, then even better.
So,
but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
What drives your passion when you're writing these screenplays, and how do you get the passion back when you run into writer's block, or if you run into writer's block?
Well, you better love it, because there's a 99% chance of never making any kind of money off of this. Mm-hmm. Like, I supplement my income by being a blacklist reader, so I read scripts all day. I can find joy in that, and I love helping other readers. But I mean, no one wants to be sitting around reading, a majority of pretty bad scripts. I mean, let's be honest. A majority of the people submitting are new writers just trying to gauge their talent, and that's great. But it can be tough on the reader who's getting a Word document with pictures in it sometimes. Yeah. But you better love it, because you're not going to want to read those scripts, just like you're not going to want to write when you're having a down day, or the wolf is at the door and you can't make rent. So one of the things that supplement that joy is my love for TV. Like, if you don't love TV, don't write TV. If you don't love features, don't write features. If you don't love any of it, you better find out what you do love, if it's novels or short stories or copywriting or whatever. But yeah, I think that when I do run into writer's block, that kind of like meditation stasis. I mean, in meditation, especially in Asian cultures, you have a mantra that you say over and over again. It might not be a real word. I don't worry about any of that. It's basically just closing your eyes and letting the thoughts come to you, stream of consciousness wise. So you can call it meditation, you can call it a nap, whatever you want. But that really helps me, especially when I've got writer's block, just getting away from the computer and closing my eyes.
Okay. Well, to wrap up the interview, what can we look forward to in the future with any projects that you're doing or anything like that?
Well, I'm actually rep now. My coming of age family pilot, Panhandled, is being shopped around currently to some of the streamers. So hopefully, you'll see some success on that end. But it's like winning the lottery these days, getting anything optioned. I've also got a web series. It's a mockumentary that I've been show running. I put together a writer's room of 7 other writers virtually, all across the country. Like, we've got some in New York, some in Pennsylvania, some in the UK. So that's been fun, dealing with the 8-hour time difference. Mm-hmm. but we set out without a concept just to produce something because we're, sick and tired of just waiting for yes. We wanted to make our own yes. And so we're finished with the script, and now we're setting up the crowdfunder page, and we're going to be launching that shortly. And then we're going to be shooting it, producing it ourselves.
Okay. Where can people connect with you? Like any socials or anything like that?
Twitter is the major place for writers. You've got screenwriting Twitter, full of its ups and downs and love and debates. Um, don't mention bold slug lines on Twitter, but you can find me there, as well as Instagram. It's J Handler Writer. Yeah, both IG and Twitter. You can, feel free to reach out. J Handler Writer. Even if you don't follow me, I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay. Oh, I do have another question. So you mentioned reading. So what are some three reading screenplay books or even non-screenplay books that you have been reading this year or in the past that you would definitely recommend?
Sure. The first one that I stumbled on was Sid Field's screenplay, I believe it's called. Let me double check that. Sid Field screenplay. Simple title, simple book to an extent. It's no nonsense. It's fairly antiquated at this point. But there are some great tips regarding structure, especially for features. I think he was predominantly a feature writer, but a lot of it does translate to pilot writing. Another one was Save the Cat.
I've heard of
Unfortunately,
that.
yeah, there's a
Yes.
lot of debate around Save the Cat and
Yeah.
what it's done to the industry, and whether you need to hit that catalyst at page 12 and that act break at page 25. And but I did read it and I did get a lot out of it. It makes sense out of structure in a way that I hadn't seen before in features. And then you start to see the formula in every movie and you're like, okay, yeah, they use Save the Cat. That's pretty obvious here. And then another one isn't about the technique of writing. It's more like the ethos and the philosophy and why we write. And it's Stephen King's On Writing. Yeah, Stephen King's On Writing, and it's biographical. He talks about some of his writing journey, and it's one of the most inspiring and motivational writing books I've ever read. I think out of all those three, like that's the one that I would recommend writing because once the inspiration comes, then you can get into the nitty gritty technique.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us on this show. And I hope you have a great day. And I hope the audience has a great day. And tune in for the next episode.
Thanks so much, Destiny.
You too.